Hey everybody, this is Tim from Marching Roundtable and Marching Arts Education.
Hey, this is John from ToneDeafComics.com.
So we're having another one of our, what we hope are fun video conversations. We want you to be a part of the conversation. So whatever you think about what we said or what your opinions are, share in the comments. Today we're talking about the 3 highest scoring DCI shows of all time. Those shows are Blue Devils 2014, Cadets 2005, and Cabbies 2002. So we're going to talk about those 3 shows, I guess sort of just like what we remember liking about them and our remembrances of them. We're going to start in order, right?
Yeah, and by the way, if someone's like, no, those weren't the top 3, I was the one who did the research, and I could be wrong, so don't blame Tim on this. But I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Well, if we do have the wrong shows, by all means, everybody let us know. But this is the ones we're going to talk about today anyway.
Yeah.
So the first one that was one of the highest scoring, 2002 Cavaliers Frameworks.
Yes.
My favorite all-time Cabby show.
And I've got to say, I honestly think this should be the highest scoring show of all time. Like, if you put these 3 shows up against each other, I'm pretty sure this would come out on top. I'm just saying that.
It was so revolutionary. I don't think people realize now, but you have to put these things in context. But for 2002, they did so many things that were so new, and that Michael Gaines drill. I mean, of course, that was like the basis of the amazement. There was so many incredibly creative things that happened visually, and then of course Richard Salcedo wrote this incredible musical book to accompany it, and I mean they worked on that together. But it's my all-time favorite Cabby show.
Yeah, it's great. I remember watching them in Toledo at the first show we saw them in 2002, and I turned to the person next to me and I was like, they're going to win this year. It was during the ballad, during that kind of not a hit, but it was like the just warmth of sound. The color guard was doing their flag work, which is like counterpoint to what was going on, and I was like, they're going to win. Like, I didn't need to see any other core, really.
I mentioned on another one of these videos, I did a bunch of conversations with Scott Chandler of the Blue Devils. There's a course at Marching Arts Education, Wisdom of a Master, design advice from Scott Chandler. And he talks about the Blue Devil staff being in Murfreesboro that year, seeing the Cabbies perform the show, and he said they turned to each other and said, that's that. So Scott Chandler of the Blue Devils watches the show and goes like, well, we're working for a second. I mean, that's not what he said out loud, but you know what I mean? Like, they were like, there it is. Everybody knew it was incredibly special.
Yeah, and not only was it well designed, but it was at that moment with the Cavaliers swagger where they had already won 2 championships in a row, and now it's like they had that confidence because they have that show design too that year. It's like, this is plainly obvious what's going on here, you know?
All the pieces of the puzzle. I mean, that core was firing on every cylinder, and cylinders we didn't even know existed. And then the design is fantastic. Yeah, and then, of course, probably the most famous thing from that show is the dance block, right?
Yeah.
They move into this big thing, and I actually know some of the people that designed that, and I just feel like vicariously cool because I actually know them that created this. It's so amazing. But that whole Cabby's dance thing and the guards flying around and jumping up and down in the middle. It was revolutionary.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then the brass playing is impeccable. Like, I just listened to it again yesterday, and it's so spot on, not only with tone and everything and balance and intonation, but style. Everybody's matching the same exact style. And it's geez Louise, this brass staff, they knew what was going on.
It's amazing. So well. Yeah. And I do want to say about that dance block that, there was a downside to that because it was such a big thing that everybody had to do it. So for the next, 5 or 6 years, every band show, let's stop and do every band show. I mean, listen, I gave a band in North Carolina a show of the Organ Symphony by Saint-Saëns, right? And this whole thing, and I sent it to them. And then when I see it later at the end of the season, they stop in the middle of the show, in the middle of the drill. They just stop, put their horns down, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, what are you doing? It had nothing to do with Saint-Saëns at all. But it was like a requirement. And it was so gross. So many people put those in inappropriate ways, inappropriate moments, and the audience always reacts. So anyway, we love it, cabbies, but you did subject us to 1,000 bad imitations.
Thanks,
The
guys.
downside of the 2000. Thanks a lot, guys. No, I mean, that's just, band directors jumping on the trend. I mean, that's why they're all in those ugly jumpsuits we were talking about. Oh, did I mention those again? Anyway, but I do love the Framework show.
Yeah.
It's like a warm hug every time I see any little piece of it. I'm like, oh, this just makes me feel. And there was something so smooth about it. Like, everything made perfect sense.
Yeah.
You never felt like anybody was going to drop a rifle, play a single wrong note. Like, there was something there's command. There was like the command of the world of drum corps was so complete with that core.
Yeah. Right.
Kind of what you said about the swagger. It's really what it was. Like they were just on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the same score, 2005, Cadets.
Yeah.
The Zone.
Yeah, this is not one of my favorite Cadet shows, if I'm going to be honest. And it's mainly like I like the opener after their little introduction portion, the Ikus part. I like the ballad. Not a big fan of the rest. I don't like the faux Medea piece that they do as the end. And then I think we got a taste of the beginning of Mike using microphones and the poor execution of that. Like the tone like the sound of it doesn't sound good because I mean it's the first few years of using microphones and it's like, whew, this is rough sounding. I'm not a fan of the show, but there are good parts.
I can't believe you were saying that because, John, this is one of those shows that everybody loves but me. I do not love this show. I hate to say it because I love the Cadets, and the core was amazing. The performance was amazing. Even the design was really good, but I don't love this show.
I don't either. And yes, you're like, this was the first year that Gino was with the horn line at Cadets, and you can tell they're playing their butts off, and they sound freaking great.
Amazing. But the performance, like the brass line plays amazing, the drum line is amazing, the guard is amazing, all the performances are amazing. I just don't love this show. Like I've always felt like something was weird about me because everybody loves the show but me.
No, it's the end for me that kills it. The last half of the show, and I don't really care for the intro to the show, but the opener and ballad, I like. I heard that ballad, Dancer in the Dark, and I was like, oh, I gotta try and find a way to use this somehow. Use this build-up technique with percussion coming in and stuff, and I did it with like a Danny Elfman piece in a show. So, there are some definitely cool aspects, and the core played and performed really well.
And most of the time when I talk to somebody about this show and they totally dig it, they're concentrating on things that I don't tend for. They're like, oh my God, the drum book is amazing. Like they're talking about things, or hey, wow, the part where they whistle, and I'm like, I don't even remember that. Like somehow I think I'm missing some qualities to it that other people are concentrating on, and so it makes me feel like I'm missing it. Which I have been known to do that. So
I can see why people like it. But like that closer, the faux Medea, I don't know what the decision was to do that, whether for copyright reasons or whatever, I don't know. But every time I listen to him, like, just play Medea. Like clearly this is what this is supposed to be. Just play Medea.
Well, we weren't there for all those discussions.
Right.
And the thing is, and the other thing that was really revolutionary about this show that you have to remember is the uniform was different on the front and the back. So they would turn around and they looked like a completely different drum corps. Like they had a front of a uniform on the back of their uniform, the guard and the horn line.
Yeah.
So they would turn, and I've had staff members tell me that was so hard because you had to so completely, like, how when people slide, they tend to get off. But if they weren't all exactly lined up, it was very obvious in what they were wearing because the front was so different from the back. Right. So that was really revolutionary, and that was really interesting. I remember how they could change so dramatically. Kind of like this year, they did the crazy front and the black back, and that was sort of another version of that, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I see where they were going with that. But that was really revolutionary for the day, and I give them props for that. That was really very interesting. But anyway, all right. I thought I was going to be radical because I didn't love it, but I guess we're both on the same team for this one.
No, and I think like you said, like I love the Cadets, and this is one show I barely go back and listen to. So
yeah, and it was so popular at the time, and and I'm not a fan of the schoolgirls. Like, I get it. I thought I got the door. I understand it.
right.
I don't know. I just didn't love it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just me. Comment
Yeah.
below. Anyway, all right. Of course, the highest scoring show of all time, Blue Devils 2014, Fellini-esque, really a new standard for what they were able to accomplish. And that's another core where everything was firing on cylinders we didn't even know were out there.
Yeah, and this is where, like, the previous Blue Devil shows I wasn't really the biggest fan of, and this one is one where I was like, okay, I like this. I do like the show. And that opener with the like, I think mellophones were also on trumpet, so you had half the core on trumpet for that first, like, 2 minutes or something. It was. I went back and when I listened to it, it was 1 minute and 50 seconds before the low brass comes in, and that trumpet feature is freaking amazing. Yeah. Like, it just sounds good. So when that low brass finally adds in, it's something. Like, it's really good.
Yeah, really interesting effect and way of putting it together. Of course, there were a lot of very daring things, all the white props and the long stage. I had a conversation with, again, Scott Chandler on that course at martingarciasuggestion.com. He talks about this show and how it went together, and he said he started this show. He had this sort of image of the guy going down that long runway. Yeah. That's where the whole thing started. And he said, okay, I have that idea. Because that's how shows happen sometimes. You have this one idea and you're like, I'm seeing this. Where does that take me? So he had, and then of course that they took that long runway, divided into pieces, used those props all kinds of different ways. But that was really interesting to me that's where the show began for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And the show is so stylized to that time period. Like the ballad, I love it. It's got that sound to it, and the chorus sounds so good. Like, just playing, like, they sound perfect playing those chords and entrances and everything. I really like the closer too. I thought one thing that was interesting in this show that I think that, I don't know if I noticed it any other chord do it until this point, but like they hid the microphones for the brass soloists in the props. So like they would play, and like a post would be right here, but it wasn't like they're like playing down into it. So it was like they were using like placement of the microphone smart. Because I don't know if there were wireless mics being used at that point. I can't remember. There probably were, but I don't know.
But that's an example of a detail of the artistry that they brought to that show that really mattered. Like, there didn't seem to be anything that wasn't well thought out and perfectly placed. And of course, that's why they get that kind of result that they did. And the show, everybody responded to the show. It just seemed special.
Yeah. Yeah. I always feel like Blue Devil shows year after year build towards their future, and that show definitely was a stepping stone to what we got in 2017 and this year, I feel like.
Could definitely make that case for sure.
Yeah.
See the growth of the core.
If you look at Blue Devils, you can look at their growth every year and how it leads to a show either the next year or 2 years down the road. Like, it's pretty amazing to look at. Well, and
that's just they're being so thoughtful, and they are planning way ahead.
Yeah.
Like Scott will tell you that when they're in the middle of a summer, all he's thinking about is the next year's show. I mean, clearly they're working on that year's show, and he's detailing it and working it. But that during this one summer, he is planning and working on and researching and studying his idea for the next year.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the thing is, like, people, if you do this right, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And some people ask, where do these amazing shows come from? Well, there's one of your answers. People are spending a year or 2 or 3 thinking about a show, how to put it together, researching it, studying it. That's how you have to do this. You have to do this. You have to do this with a lot of work, and I think it's more work than most people realize.
Right.
Like putting that framework show together. Like, I know that team do what?
Or want to put into it.
I still can't hear you.
Or how more work than they actually want to put into it.
Oh, that too. Well, we've all been there. But yeah, no. But anyway, the collaboration. The other thing is the collaboration of the team. The frameworks team. They've been on video talking about how they collaborated and how closely they communicated. And somebody would say, "Oh, can I have 8 more counts over here?" And I have this idea I want to do. And they work so seamlessly. It's almost like they had a Vulcan mind meld going on the whole time. It's pretty amazing. Did I do that right? How is it? I don't remember. Is it here? Where's the Vulcan mind meld? All right, somebody tell me where the Vulcan mind meld is in comments. John, this was fun. I mean, let us know also other things you might want us to talk about. We are enjoying doing these videos. Hopefully you're enjoying them too. Yeah. Let us know if you have other ideas for DCI topics or any other marching topics or non-marching topics, music topics. Let us know.
Cool. Thanks, John.
You're doing great work at Tone Deaf Comics, man. I'm loving the comics.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Check out Marching Roundtable, marchingartseducation.com. Appreciate you watching. Thanks, John.
See ya.
Go to tonedeafcomics.com to see the great work John is doing, including the latest comics and great merchandise like posters for your classroom. You can also sign up to get comics emailed to you as they are released. tonedeafcomics.com. Go to marchingartseducation.com, where you can get access to the top marching arts professionals through live webinars, videos, and coursework. Imagine where you can take your group with just a few new valuable ideas. You can interact with the experts and ask questions during live webinars. marchingartseducation.com. And go to marchingroundtable.com to see over 750 podcasts. Make yourself more valuable by listening in the car, at the gym, or at your convenience. There's great entertaining conversations on most every topic you might need help with. Get some fresh ideas to help take your group to the next level at marchingroundtable.com.